Ladies and gentlemen, praise God and welcome in. This is the Matthew Dark Show. And remember, hit subscribe everywhere you get your shows. Never miss an episode. It's time. We've had enough. We're going to cut through the lies. I want to speak directly to the MAGA person that on November of 2024 thought all their problems were solved, that they had won the election of a lifetime and that America was just fine. You can actually put the brakes on, take that vacation, go ahead and back off the school board, do the things that you always wanted to do. President Trump and this amazing team is in. What we have found out 9 months later, that was lies. This is not going well for America. It's getting worse. I want to start with the lies that come right out of Utah. Our great friend of the show, and in Utah, which is also the site of the assassination, in cold blood in front of the world to see. Now, I want to reset to Charlie Kirk. This is September the 10th, 2025. He is at Utah Valley University. As we've all seen it so many times before, the report says a 30-06 from a distance of about 150 hit him. They're calling that wound on his left side an entrance wound. It is an exit wound. It is at the wrong angle. They're saying his neck bone stopped the bullet from hurting anyone else. These are all lies. MAGA sits by and accepts it. Why? You had just been spoon-fed the greatest lie of all time, that the Epstein files were a Democrat hoax, that they didn't exist, and that we're moving on. And you're a stupid person if you're still paying attention to those. I will never stop the Epstein. I will never stop the Charlie Kirk. You shouldn't either, MAGA. You've been lied to. Hold them to account. Shawn Young joins us. You're in, state of Utah. And of course, this is also a state run by a very homosexual, very flaming, just hideous, demonic governor. And you can see the fruits of those states. When you put, if this offends people, it's okay, but you can see the fruit is not working. Homosexual men should not be leading other men, okay? Colorado, Jared Polis, Jewish homosexual man, adopting children, married some kind of minority gentleman. He's kind of put the whole liberal agenda into one person, and that's what you get. But you have a bad state here. You have a state full of crime. We're going to talk about the upcoming crime when the SNAP benefits end this weekend. But in Utah, you've certainly described a very corrupted judicial legal process. There is no doubt your case speaks to it. This is absolutely speaking to it. This is going to be the fake trial of our lifetime. What is, I guess, the sentiment? I have a lot of people that don't want to speak to me about the Charlie Kirk incident. They think I'm a bad person for continuing to bring it up. In fact, others that I engage with it, it's a turnoff. You can tell they don't interested. Is that what you're getting? What are you sensing out there on the Charlie Kirk case? Second most important thing behind Epstein to get resolved.
Well, thanks for having me on your show, Matt. And I love your content. I love watching your stuff.
Thank you.
When I see your videos, especially the recent ones, it reminds me of 5 or 6 years ago when I first had my kids stolen from me by Utah's government, when I could see all the corruption within the state, when I was screaming and doing all this, just had so much passion in me, wanting the public to know all these horrible things that I could see because I was personally experiencing them. And everybody thought I was insane. And a lot of friends and family said, Shawn, you know, what you're saying is true because we personally know you, but you're probably 10 years ahead of what people can understand or relate to. And so I feel like when I'm seeing your stuff now, that's what I feel like with you is I'm like, man, this guy is spot on. You're nailing it. You're asking the right things. You're saying the right things based on facts, based on reality. But I'm 40 years old. What I've learned in life is people see what they want to see. And most of the time it's based on how much they investigate things or how much they've lived and experienced things. But so, I mean, people that get turned off, that don't want to have conversations are people that aren't willing to face reality. And we have to face reality because our country is going to shit.
You're so right about that because I think you are nailing it. We just discussed this week as well. Cognitive dissonance. I mean, when we talk about doing your own research, use COVID as a great example. If you're a mother that screamed at the top of her lungs during COVID, get vaccinated, put your kids in a mask, our family's vaccinated, and there was millions of those kind of mothers in the moment, hysterical. And look at them now. How do you feel about it now? And that's not to mock the mother, but shame on that mother. We don't know where you got that information from, sweetie. Dr. Fauci? Rochelle Walensky, these are not reliable sources. My goodness. Now, if your doctor lied to you and told you to get the shot, I think there's some victimhood there. But in the most part, these people were out there in the front. That same woman who vaccinated her whole family with something that we now know is super poisonous and super dangerous for human beings, she can't take her mind to what she's done to her family. I mean, what if her kid has an injury? How many millions of mothers have injured their kids via vaccine? And to actually go back and do the investigation and find out, oh my gosh, it was those things. And I told the doctor, do it. It's too much for mom to do, right?
Well, how many of those people have you heard come out and say, we were wrong, we're sorry? Those were the ultimate shamers. Those were the people telling us that. I mean, Spencer Cox got up and told us that it was a pandemic of the unvaccinated. He said, if we don't believe him, ask the Pope of the Catholic Church, ask the Mormon prophet Russell M. Nelson that said the vaccine was a godsend. I mean, he's saying all these things. Spencer Cox, according to Tucker Carlson, is America's red state woke governor.
Yep.
According to Charlie Kirk, he said he should be expelled from the Republican Party. At an event with Trent Staggs in 2024, Charlie Kirk came out. He was supposed to be there for Staggs, but he was really just talking about how pathetic Spencer Cox was and how could we have such a pathetic governor that continually just gaslights us with lies and just puts it in our faces. Why are we dealing with that? And we did a similar thing with Mitt Romney. I mean, when he was in the United States Senate, he was voting with Democrats every single time, and we allowed it. And
I think he voted for Joe Biden. I think he did.
I think he did. And I mean, those are the faces of the Mormon church. And so for me, I get, a lot of hate or a lot of people smashing me or not wanting to have conversations because everyone around me is Mormon. Most of my family, most of my friends. But when I bring up these things and say, Utah's controlled for the most part by KSL and Deseret News, before social media. That's why they hate social media. But they push Cox and Romney as these incredible human beings that we should all follow. And it's like, okay, you're all saying the church doesn't agree with those guys, but they're putting them on the face of their media outlets.
Bro, this is I didn't think about that until you just said it, but this is exactly what goes on with this same Jewish conversation where we're assessing the fruit. Okay. So like you just spelled out, the fruit from Spencer Cox and the fruit from Mitt Romney, that's foul fruit. That's spoiled fruit. They slap a religion behind it, and all of a sudden, that rotten fruit's not so bad. That's not the way it works. I look at Chuck Schumer, Jewish American. I look at Alejandro Mayorkas, the man who opened the border and said, come on in to 20 million people. That's another Jew. Look at the fruit. And so I got no problem. You want to be a Mormon? That's fine. Let me see your fruit. Oh, it's no good? Then I'm not interested. Same thing with a Christian. You run around talking about you're a Christian and you're doing things to children. Well, then you're not a Christian and you're not for me. Okay. So I have the right as American with eyes, although I use corrective lenses, I can see the fruit coming off of Chuck Schumer is foul. I think what they did, Rochelle Walensky's another Jew, Albert Bourla at Pfizer, all these people just happen to be Jewish and the fruit just happens to be foul. The two can be the same. He could be a bad Jew and a bad person, and I'm just assessing that. Don't tell me, though, because he's Jewish or because he's Mormon, I now have to change my standard of assessment. I look for fruit, and is it serving the American people, the people of your state, the community? Are you first? Because anything else is unacceptable.
Well, and going along that same line is my dad is the mayor of Orem, the city where Charlie Kirk was murdered. It was 2 miles from my parents' house, where I've now been on house arrest for almost a year.
Yes.
And my dad's been a strong Mormon his whole life. He served a mission in Australia for 2 years, because that's what you do when you're 19 in the church, or I think now they go 18. But he's a devoted man to his religion, and he's the salt of the earth, best person I know, my hero, the person I look up to, and he's Mormon. And I can have conversations with him all the time and point out things, and he doesn't like those things because, it makes him, nobody likes to feel like what they're doing is stupid, I guess.
Right. Yeah.
But there are amazing people in religion. But for me, at some point, you can't blindly follow leadership or these religions that are destroying us. And that's what bothers me. But Anyway.
It's beautifully said. Right there is exactly what it is. So here's the thing. I have a disagreement with Mormonism,
Mhm.
but I can set that aside and check your fruit. So your father is doing this, this, and this to better his fellow man. I don't care. I'd like him to come to Christ the way the Christian Bible reads it, but I can still assess and value your fruit. If your father's a Mormon and doing bad things to children, stealing money, and taking bribes, I can also say, don't tell me just because he's Mormon, I have to tolerate these crimes. You'll see, we've mushed that all together. And the thing is, I don't give a crap what you want to celebrate. But at the end of the day, we have an exam and it's assessed by, are you doing something that improves the lives of Americans that pay all these people salary? This is what's so crazy too, this facade of taxes. You know, I am in huge difference with the LGBT community. The establishment community, the traditional, we do the status quo. That's a disgusting group of people to me. But at the end of the day, we all should be against 30% on our credit card. We should all be against the amount of taxes and property taxes that we're just forced to take on every year. We should be absolutely fed up with the endless inflation. Us as Americans that hold those kind of things, you know, we want to have a home, we want a wife, we want kids, we want safety. We're not looking for a golf course and a Lamborghini. We're just looking for the basics of the American dream. That's all. We should be able to unify on that and set the other stuff aside, because collectively, the only way out of this, and I can tell you this has been clearly given to me. You can never vote your way out of what's happened to America. It will not work that way. It might need implosion and it's barbaric for a long time, or it's this nice organic movement to where everybody who says, I don't think government's working for me anymore. And I bet you I could look 5 houses and find that same conversation. Things aren't working for me. Americans, where do you want to put our money to work and take industry apart? So, for example, Christian Americans, if you don't like the messaging on Netflix, you think it's sexual to children, you think it's creating those, every Christian who claims they're American, who claims they're MAGA, who claims they love this country, cancel your Netflix today. Do it collectively. Do it about 50 million. Okay, Netflix is done. Okay, who else? We'll get to Apple at some point, because at some point, every Christian says, you know what? We can go without our phones longer than they can go without us. I believe that to be true. So setting that side apart aside, we have to strip out what majority of what we're told is a lie, right? So on Charlie Kirk's case, we can clearly say, and let's just look at a couple of elements in this case that they're saying took place.
Let me say something real quick.
Please,
Matt.
go ahead.
So basically how we got into the mess that we're in is through bad policies and bad leaders. And the policies are what destroy our countries, are what destroy our local communities. And so if our local leaders, if our mayors, if our governors, if our city councilmen, if our people on school boards, if they're bad people and they're pushing the woke ideology, the LGBTQ stuff, all these different horrible, the DEI, the COVID scam, all that crap, it organically destroys human beings. And that's kind of the model of the Democrats. They did it to the blacks, then they did it to women by taking fathers out of the homes and destroying marriages, destroying families by allowing women to make false allegations in court, which destroyed lives. There's, hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of fathers in jail or prison right now that can't help their family or do anything for their kids. And all this, everyone's saying the government shut down. We need all our welfare. We need this. We need that. Well, maybe if you didn't destroy the father of your children and take them out of society and make taxpayers pay to house them and feed them, and then house and feed the mom and the kids, I mean, it's bad policy. And so to me, that's the biggest thing.
Bad policy, or they did it perfectly? Because we don't know. Maybe this was always the agenda. We get dad out of the way. We got mom and these kids for good. But yeah, continue.
No, I mean, and that's all I was going to bring up.
Well, that's beautiful, because you're so right. And I cannot wait for the resolution to these SNAP benefits. We will go back to this, because, I mean, the chaotic moment, if you go back to George Floyd, and this sort of artificially induced. Now remember, folks, for our listener, because we forget these events and they get so much over on us during COVID, during 9/11, during George Floyd, during the elections. They are getting things done as we are distracted by the candy. Oh, another butterfly. Oh, and here we are. And then before we even realize it, that one's over and we're on to the next one. But this chaotic moment that's coming on America, I actually think it's one of the greatest things that we can have. And I want to talk about this. We'll just talk about this issue right now, because just speaking with a gentleman today at our office on this, here we are with the reason we have all this inflation and all this debt is because we have our fat ass in every part of the world meddling in something, whether that's a war or trying to regime change like they're doing in Venezuela right now. That is another regime change. We've been doing it in the Middle East, did it in Ukraine. So we don't have any money because we gave it all out, right? And so now we're trying to deal with a society that's very expensive to live in, very stressful, very chaotic. You come up to this thing, this moment where you're going to have poor people who have been completely dependent on government for their whole lives. And a lot of this is generational, not from the 60s and 70s, but these kids that are growing up now, that's mom in the 90s and 2000s, they grew up on welfare, food stamp. This is how we live. You can have 6 or 7 kids with 6 or 7 guys. And you get more money per month when you do that, actually, that way. And so you don't ever marry that man. And here we go. But you're going to find this is going to all come. The piper must get paid at some point. So this problem we described, kicking the fathers out or de-incentivizing fathers to stay in the home in the Black communities, you're going to have grocery stores are going to be just destroyed. You're going to have stealing up because these guys are already on there. Say, you take away my EBT, I just got to steal more than I already do. That's what they're saying to us. That's going to happen. So you think about the violence that was co-signed. You remember the co-signing of the George Floyd riots, right? I mean, these were burning cities, and these idiots on CNN and these idiots on the left would say, mostly peaceful protests. That was how they described the burning of Minneapolis, right? That's going to happen again. So when the King Soopers and the Costco's and the Walmarts and all these places burn down, the left is going to say, this is what you get, Donald Trump, when you take away our stuff and blah, blah, blah. And they will be all for, and they will be cheering it on. And guess what? There'll be new bail funds. Kamala Harris was world famous for being a part of the bail funds, getting people out of jail that had just burned down some Korean grocery store in their own neighborhood. And then you wonder why Blacks are in such a bad way. They're being cheered on from the sidelines to go destroy their own home. I've never heard of such a thing. But society needs to see what's happened to these people, because 50% of our violent crimes are committed by 2% of the people. That's Black males 18 to 45. That's not acceptable. Your thoughts?
Well, and there's several different points I could bring up, but when I went back to Alabama and my dad gave me the opportunity to flip homes and do rental properties, we had an 8-unit apartment complex in a place called East Lake in a suburb of Birmingham, Alabama. Mm-hmm. And when we got it, it was just a crack house that had been wrecked. And so we basically went in there, had to fix it all up, get it Section 8 ready, because Section 8, basically, if you give these people a nice place to live, they'll stay there for 20 years, and it's an automatic check from the government. So it's kind of a way of manipulating the system and just, a good cash flow system. But when we did that, and we had different issues, because we would see, shootings every day and different things, and have conversations with the police. And mind you, this is right next to a gigantic Baptist church that probably cost $100 million to build. Wow. That was vacant now. And so a lot of the issues now that are kind of, mainstream America, I believe hit the Black communities. I don't know when that was, 20, 30, 40 years ago, but now it's kind of mainstream America. And what destroyed those communities was bad politicians preying on just naive people that did not know what was happening to them. And a lot of it was in the Black churches. They had the pastors, they had the religion, they had, it's just so sick to see what happened to them. And then, once we renovated it, and I got to be really good friends with my tenants, because they always had just horrible landlords and were treated like trash. But, I would take them through turkeys on Thanksgiving, or just go check in, just make sure they had a safe place to live, because coming from Orem, Utah, and seeing this kind of situation was mind blowing for me. Yes. But they respected me because I treated them, like humans, basically,
Yes.
which they are. Um,
Right.
but talking to their kids, it was like, they would say, Mr. Shawn, how did you get to where you're at? What advice can you give me? And I would be like, well, what are you interested in? You tell me what your path is. And they're like, well, I'm almost 18, so I can get on disability. And then they started naming
Wow.
all their government programs that they could get on. But that's not their fault because that's a
No.
generational thing. And so when I see all this insane stuff happen, I mean, when my dad got attacked by the trans person, they went mainstream
Yes.
media all over the nation. She got a misdemeanor and 10 days in jail. I think she's 31 years old.
Right.
But during the Joe Biden era, I mean, what makes me so mad
Oh.
is there's these evil, evil people in power, and there's all these people that are a product of their bad policies. And so it is easy to attack, the LGBTQ or the minorities or the woke or people with pronouns, and I do it because just by
Yes.
human nature, I see it and I'm like, this disgusts me to my core, and I feel sorry for these people. But the reality is leaders that destroy humanity. Those are the
100%.
people that I want to go after and I want in prison and I want taken out of power. I mean, how can the governor of Utah and the governor of Colorado, where you're at, with
Hmm.
all the crimes against humanity that they've done over the last 5 years, still be in power and not,
And they'll be
everyone being okay
promoted.
with
They'll get even more. Polis out here, he'll run for president. And these people. That's the problem with America right now, is we've turned these politicians into celebrities, and these are somehow untouchable people. And okay, and they did it by design because they've caused enormous inflation, and they've caused mom to be full-time in the workforce. They've caused children to be at daycare and at school full-time, and they're being now pounded with disgusting things. We know about the filthy books at the schools. We know about 80% of teachers are Democrats. And so that's a problem. So yeah, as much as I want to say, you scumbag, blue-haired, trans freak, blah, blah, that person has nothing to do with it. They've been conned, manipulative. They've been captured. They're under false teaching. They're under wickedness. And so it's only the heart that Christ can put into you that says, okay, but I see you as a person, and I see that they've lied to you. And there's a better way. There's a better way. Truth is a better way. And that's really what we're after here, is that truth, even though it's going to be painful, it's going to be so painful for these mothers that realize they injured their children with vaccines. It's going to be so painful for people to realize the Jewish nation was not worthy of my blind allegiance. It's going to be really hard for people to see,
or
that Donald
Ukraine.
Trump is a problem. I mean, the fact that the fact that America first is like a secondary thought now. I still can't figure out, when do we get to America? When do we get to the business at hand? And I'm talking about inflation. We're talking about crime, and we're talking about this pulling back of the AI, pulling back the crypto, pulling back the surveillance. I mean, everything that Trump's going for right now is, it would, if you just heard the policies and didn't see the president, you'd think there's no way this is Donald Trump. Donald Trump's never going to go for this stuff, but he is. And so we just have to go through that. I spoke to a guy this morning. If I put on 150 pounds, okay, at some point, it's going to be very painful to start to lose that weight. It is. I don't care that's a lot of weight to lose. And the habits and the cravings and all those things are going to be there. You're going to be slow. You're out of shape. It'll get better. But that moment of losing the 200 pounds that you shouldn't have put on is going to be, and then you're going to start to get momentum, and then you're going to be back where you want to be once the truth has said, oh, what am I doing eating this stuff? What am I doing laying on the couch all the time? What am I doing? What am I doing? We just have to come to that moment as America, that there is emergencies at hand that needs our attention, our hearts, our focus, and to accept that, you know what? We've been lied to. And I think that's what it is. I think people are more comfortable being lied to than acknowledging that they were conned. Like, that's just not a comfortable thing. I'd rather just go along with you're right. And oh my gosh, did I just pay double for this thing when I could have got it for half, and I just got suckered, right?
Well, let me ask you this, because as you know, or I don't know if you know, but when my kids got taken from me in
Yes.
2019, I was desperate to get attention to my story because I felt like nobody in the state of Utah, politically or in the
Right.
media, people high up in the church I knew. Nobody wanted to help me and nobody cared. At 34 years old, I get on social media for the very first time just because I wanted a voice. So I
Yes.
bought a Donald Trump mask. I was doing Trump skits. I started cooking,
Nice.
doing all these fancy meals. I
Nice.
mean, a guy that, is 34, flipped around 60 houses in Alabama, very involved in the community, a respected person, and I'm doing these things and then I'm getting naked and I'm doing bizarre, weird shit just because I have these apps telling me the traffic I'm getting on my page, and
Yeah.
I do one of those three things I just said, and it brings all
Yeah.
kinds of people on. So it was all just to
Wow.
get attention.
Yes.
But during that time, I felt like I really got I was going to Trump rallies and just became a huge Trump supporter because I respected how he fought and I
Yeah.
respected his
Yeah.
family. And so if I look at a guy and see, it looks like he has a good wife, looks like he has a good family, and then everyone's fighting for him and fighting for things that aligned with me, I
Yeah.
became, a huge Trump guy, huge MAGA guy.
Me
And
too.
so now where we're at and we see all these things that don't make any sense, what I want to ask you is, do you think, with Charlie Kirk getting assassinated, taken out, basically because they could not control him and he could not be bought. As James O'Keefe always says, what's your price?
Right.
The price is his life. Well, Charlie Kirk, the price was his life
Right.
ultimately for just keeping his voice, not selling out, not being a puppet, not being willing to be bought. And so I believe that was a message to all of us,
Yes.
including, people like Donald Trump. And so my question to you is, do you believe that we've been lied to this whole time by Trump? Or do you think once he got in, it was basically, I got to work within what I can do to do as much as possible without getting killed,
This
basically?
is what happened. Trump was captured right around the time of the Butler, Pennsylvania shooting. I'm still not comfortable that that was a real shooting. I still want to
I
put
don't
as
know
much
either.
value that it was a firecracker and they set this whole thing up. That to me has as much legitimacy as the retarded kid on the roof with no record, no nothing, no hair, nothing, shoots, but he just misses. He just misses. And then they kill him. And of course, we know about the Secret Service that day. So I believe in my heart of hearts. And up until that moment, I was still all in Donald Trump. It's July of 2024. We're going to do it. This is America's last stand. There is no second election. There is no, we'll get them back in 28. This is it. And up. And then I found out about the APEC money. And I did not know at that time that total was $250 million between the initial, of course, Marion Adelson, and of course, the mega Jewish donors came in and got Trump elected. I think if people understand how Jews play American politics, or at least how APEC plays American politics, they are funding both sides at all times. And so they are going to have a winner in their position no matter what. Israel doesn't lose, okay? Your candidate might, but they don't. I think that they could clearly see, and remember in the summer of 2024, it was all set up by the Democrats to get Joe Biden an early debate against Donald Trump, in which he got his head handed to him like the old man he is, and then immediately they discharged him away, okay? The money behind what put Trump in power said, okay, we can keep you safe. We can get you in the White House. Remember, if Trump didn't win the election, he also was going to jail. I mean, the assaults were going to continue. The trials, he was going to go to jail. I mean, whether he should have or not, I'm not suggesting that, but a Democrat president was saying, go get him and don't let him out. That was going to happen. So I believe that that money power came in and said, we can keep you alive. We can keep you out of jail. We can get you in the White House. Here's what you're going to do, though. And I think at that moment, when you saw the picking of the cabinet, it's a heavy Jewish cabinet. It's a Zionist cabinet. To me, that tells me they've got their people in place and the marching orders are there. How do we know that's 100% true? The Epstein files. So we know he was captured at some point prior to the Epstein files, but we know that Donald Trump believed in the Epstein files because he was taunting them at Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton in the 2015, the 2016. He was saying, I don't know about Hillary, Bill's got some trouble. He's on the island 28 times and all these things. So we know that the Epstein list is at the center of this whole really demonic scheme, which is to own people in power through taking advantage of their lust, their fleshy desires. We get them compromised, or in some cases, just bribery. but there is absolutely this agenda happening. And so when Trump became captured and he signed his cabinet up like he did, and he has his Jewish daughter and his Jewish son-in-law, and he is essentially, I saw in 2017 that he had converted to Judaism. He still will talk about Jesus a little bit, but we think he's captured, and we think that he is no longer in control of the decisions. We think people like Kash Patel, the lying scumbag who said countlessly, Epstein files exist. They are at the FBI headquarters. They are under the direct control of the FBI director, of which he is now the FBI director, and refuses to do this. I don't know that you just saw this reporting. This was Tulsi Gabbard's like head assistant, top aide. I'll get his name. He was stopped from investigating the foreign intelligence. Was he associated with Tyler Robinson? This is what's so ridiculous. Tyler Robinson, the gay lone shooter, transvestite lover, was also a part of a foreign intelligence. I mean, give me a break. This kid, it has nothing to do with it, but the foreign intelligence is where we need to be looking. And Kash Patel stopped that. And so all these people, Dan Bongino, remember, he got on there. He was a podcaster making $5 million on a podcast. And he takes this stupid job at the FBI. And they say, well, did Epstein kill himself? Yes, he did. I've seen it. I mean, it's just like embarrassing himself. And they just assume because, MAGA loves him, they'll go for it. Trump will go out there and say, are we still talking about Epstein? And he was very upset. And he was doing all these things. He took for granted our kindness. He lied. And so you have the MAGA split. And that's a big problem for America because if he loses control in 2026, Trump is impeached. Now, whether it's successful, whether it's legitimate, but that's going to happen. Democrats get in control. That's over. He lost 30 to 50% of his voters. I would never, I don't resent or take back my vote, because you couldn't vote for Kamala Harris. You just use it for toilet paper. You don't vote for Kamala Harris. You don't vote for Joe Biden. You either vote for the Republican or throw your ballot in the trash. That's the only things you do. So it's not like we had a choice. But now that we know we have a serious problem, that Trump is not the same man that he was in 2015, and he came down the escalator with the lovely Melania and said, we're going to shut down the border and Mexico is going to pay for the wall. That's what he said, right? That is not the same man that now snaps at us for wanting Epstein information, that now, is going to go on this ridiculous regime change in Venezuela. We've bombed Iran. We've shown this disgusting loyalty to Israel. I'll never support. I don't care. I know it makes me an anti-Semite or a Jew hater. I'll never go for the slaughter of 50,000 kids. I don't care what color they are. I don't care where they live. They have nothing to do with it. You have no idea if they could have been saved or not. You have no idea what they could have done. But because Jewish interests said they got to go, we killed them. And because we're such gullible, stupid American Christians, we just say, hey, it says in the Bible, man. There's our boys. So that's the sad reality is you have a captured president like you've had since the beginning of time. You go back to Kennedy. Why did they kill Kennedy? And we know it wasn't the shooter on the grassy knoll. We know it wasn't Lee Harvey from the book Suppository. We know that for a fact. We've got 3 shots. Kennedy was so anti-AIPAC and Israel, he did not think they should have nuclear, and he said they must register as a foreign agent. He said it. He was also opposed to the Federal Reserve. That's also a Jewish entity that is totally corrupted the United States, turned our dollar into trash. Will we be alive when our dollars are worthless? Absolutely. I think it's happening right now as they get you into a digital currency and a digital ID and mark of the beast and all that stuff comes. I think it's a sad reality. And I had definitely beginning of the year as he's being sworn in, I was depressed. I was like, oh my gosh, because what I know, none of this stuff comes back to me. The wars in Iran and in Israel and Ukraine, those can only hurt me. I never benefit from them. I never make money from it. It only increases my costs. It's a distraction to things at home, like bridges, like poverty, like mental illness. So we never get to the business at hand, but I got to live in that filth. I don't get to live in Ukraine where they're taking care of things. I don't get to live in the rebuilt Gaza, but it's going to cause inflation. It's outrageous. So I guess the question is, okay, now that we know that we're captured, now that we know that we don't have this fighter in the White House, which we do not at all. The MAGA person, you're a rhino now. I mean, there's old MAGA and then there's rhinos that just grew because this is as establishment as you get. I don't know. It's just depressing, but it's the reality. So we must, truth hurts. let's get
Mhm.
moving on a plan. And that's why I say it's got to be this economic civil disobedience.
Mhm.
They say there's 200 million Christians in America. Baloney for one. But if that's true, how much money do you think that is on a collective basis that says, hey, I think they're screwing us. You guys want to do something about it? Yeah, cancel your cable bill this month and then have them come back to us and say, how high can we jump to get your business back? It's the only way. What do you think?
No, I completely agree with everything you just said. Um, and I think that's why it's so hard for the normal person to have these conversations, is because you just went down like 10 different rabbit holes, but articulated it and expressed it in such a good, understandable way. But I don't think most people's brains
No,
can do that.
that's the cognitive dissonance that we're talking about, though, because what that when you pull back the curtain, what it tells you is that the government that you've sworn a loyalty to, that you've paid taxes to, that you've been so obedient to you, they've been lying to you. Ouch. It's like finding out my father, was a gay guy or had this whole other family. It's like, whoa, my world just collapsed. What? You're telling me what? I can't deal with that. And so I'd rather say, you're lying, get away from me. I can't take it, than say, oh my, I get it though. That's painful stuff. It's not for everybody. Psycho guys like you and me that might say, okay, I'll double down this. Crazy guys might go for something like the average person just looking to do their job, and that's not for them. That's like, let's just hope for the best and this'll all be over soon.
Well, I think most people are kind of just trapped in this system. I mean, in the 9.5 months I did in jail, I met
Jeez.
so many different cops, and we
Right.
would have long conversations, or sergeants, or because I was always, bringing up the inhumane stuff that was happening,
Yes.
or the shit food, or
Yeah.
protesting just things that everyone should be protesting, but everyone
Right.
in jail was just kind of used to these things. And
Right.
so I would always take things up the ladders as high as I could, because I would say, tell me your oath of office. Well, you're holding me in jail illegally. And so how can you say that you honor the Constitution when you're holding me hostage
Right.
because I wanted to love my kids?
Right.
But as I've got to know these different people, or when I was extradited from Nevada, Parsons Metskow, or Mike Metskow, and his partner Ed were the ones that transported me. We had a 6-hour drive, and these are guys that had been doing the extraditions for about the last 20 years. They were in charge of all of them. And so a 6-hour drive with these guys, or, all the different correctional officers or COs, they're trapped in a system where they can't speak out. They can't stand up. They can't do anything because they like their paychecks. They like their way of
Yes.
life. They like all these things. And if they go against the system, then they're going to get smashed. They know it's broken. They know it's crap, but it's almost like they've just been turned into robots because they've seen the power of the government and what the government can do to people. And so
Absolutely.
I feel like it's people in all areas of life, or if you're in a community and you're a smart person, you're a business owner, or you've had success in whatever areas. With me, I had everything ripped away from me to where I'm completely broke, had my freedom stolen from me. And so it got to a point where there's nothing they could really do
Yes.
to hurt me. I mean,
Right.
this last stint of 8 months in jail, where I think they thought that I was going to kill myself, or that I would just shut up once I got out, because they
Yeah.
had now scared me enough. But then my takeaway from it was, okay, I thought before this 8 months in jail that if cops came to try to put me back in jail illegally, I would go suicide by cop, or I would fight
Right.
that, and I would rather be dead than go back to jail.
Mm-hmm.
But then when federal agents show up and put guns in my face, and I've got 2 seconds to make that decision, I chose to live and deal with the consequences,
Yeah.
which I'm grateful that I did. And so,
Absolutely.
but after being in jail for 8 months, it showed me that I can be in that situation, and I can make the best out of that situation, and I can grow and learn as a human being. And so now that card of them, we'll throw him in jail to scare him, really isn't there, because I could get thrown
Exactly.
in jail or prison for life. And I'm willing to, I think with us, is so many people in this world live for the day to day of just being okay. And they don't, I mean, the people that fill the churches, or the people that say they're this religion or that religion, I feel like they're filling the churches, and they go in there and they serve one another, and they have these kind of communities of people, but they're all validating each other as you're
Yes.
these great, wonderful people because, you went and visited your neighbor.
Right.
Well, the reality is there's much bigger issues that everybody should be focused on and talking
Yep.
about, like all the things that you just went over. But those are all the things that everyone just says, nope, I don't want to hear about it. I
That's
want
right.
to keep my good job. I want to show up to church. I want to keep my friends. I want to keep my family. But when you get to a place where you know that things aren't right and you're a very right and wrong person, but then you also believe in God and you believe in a life after this one, and you believe at some point I'm going to meet my maker and
Yep.
he's going to say, you knew all of these things. What did you do?
That's
And
right.
I've got to have that conversation with them.
That's
So
right.
if it risks my life, it sucks that I have an amazing girl and son that I'm taking down that path.
Yep.
But at the end of the day, if I truly believe in God and the life after this one, I believe that God is greater than all things and he will reward my family or take care of my family in whatever he thinks is necessary. And it's not
That's
something
right.
I should worry about. So
Well, in
anyway,
the book of James, he could consider it all joy, these troubles and tribulations, as it's a process of perfecting us. And so you say, well, geez, I feel so bad about doing it. Well, no, your son now sees, oh, I see. That's how you do it. You don't just quiver and run away. You fight. You stand strong if you're sitting on a truth, right? And when you're sitting on a truth, that's why, again, I'm sorry, I can't accept your bullcrap Charlie Kirk story. I am a Christian, and it does affect my spirit to live under a lie. I'm not going to do it. And then the frustration comes when it's like, well, but why don't you see the liar? Why won't you respond to the lie? And so the idea is you speak truth in a compelling, loving way, so where it's like we want light bulbs going off on people. You don't believe in the Charlie Kirk thing? Okay, what about 9/11? You're still good there. 2020 election? Okay, there. When it gets into like our voting and our taxes and what our kids are learning, our schools are failing. Our schools suck. Our schools are a joke, and you pay for them. Like, doesn't that bother you? Like your taxes? Like at a minimum, aren't you cared enough about your own money to say, yeah, no. And so when you talk about go see your neighbor, am I a good person? This is what you do as a neighbor, because I've got a neighbor across the street that I'm supposed to evangelize. That's the calling, that's the tapping. Go over there, meet your neighbor. They have an LGBTQ flag, they have a Black Lives Matter flag. They are all in. And I used to look at that person and resent them and say, you scumbag. And now it's just like, wow, how sad, how lost is that person, right? And boy, wouldn't they love to know truth. I'm kind of more of this. I would rather know I'm wrong, so I feel stupid less than to believe a lie for like ages. And it's like, now you're telling me after I've already. No, 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 no. I'm open. If I'm wrong, tell me. If somehow a 30-06 does stop the bone by a neck bone, can you show me an example of that ever happening in the history of bullets or guns or fighting or anything? Can you show me that? You can't. Okay, so that's why I say my eyes are detecting bullcrap. Yep, bull sugar is all over. And so that's what we're saying. So I'm not going to go over and talk to my neighbor. Yes, I'm going to talk to him with the Christian heart, talk to him but it's not going to be like, hey, all this was to get you to vote for Trump, or isn't Trump doing a good job, or isn't the left doing a bad? I don't care about any of that stuff. I'm recruiting you for, are you interested in collective civil economic disobedience? Let me tell you all about it. We're going to take our $25 a month and we're going to multiply it by 50 million. And we're going to tell them to shove it. Okay. And then when we're ready for your services, make us an offer. Make us an offer. So if my cell phone bill is $50, I could come back at 25. I'm not interested though in 25. Everything has to come back to where mom can stay at home and raise 10 kids if she wants. Dad can go be a carpenter and have a good retirement if he wants. Okay, that's the America worth fighting for. This bullcrap AI digital, sit in your high-rise apartment, take a light rail, have no kids, play video. No, thank you. Not fighting for that. I'm just going to fight for my family then. Collectively, though, you could get to how many women? That's a great question. How many women have been tricked, deceived, lied to that you don't need a man, go to college, you'll be a CEO woman. If you get pregnant, because we definitely want you having sex, if you're having a good time, do it. But if you get pregnant, abort it. Who cares? We'll get it to where you can do it up to 9 months. And, so what? It's not like it's a limit to one. So if you need to do it again, you're welcome to. And then you can get this beta male that will basically carry your purse around and follow you. You guys won't have kids. You'll be so self-absorbed. You'll be a mimic to everything you hear on CNN. How many of those women really want to work 60 hours a week? How many of those women really want to live in an apartment by themselves and have to come home at night with their groceries and have nobody there? How many people, women, actually want to do that stuff? And I would say the answer is probably about 1% of a woman. What I bet 90% of women love is a man that they know is faithful and submitting to God, that knows that God runs the show. I obey him. Blessings follow. Boom. I go earn a living. I protect you. I lead you, and I'm a staple in the home, never going. And you just raise the kids and cook and do those things that you want to. How many women would prefer that than this? And they've been lied to. Okay. So this is the cultural stuff that we can just say no, because when you start using your dollars effectively, those industries, big pharma, big ag, the Silicon Valley tech, Apple, Netflix, Disney, all that stuff that goes away, they require our monies on an ongoing basis in perpetuity. And I don't know what you think about the stock market. I've never seen something so fake. I want to put a number out there for the folks. I was a futures trader at the time of Trump's initial, when he won in 2016. The futures, the Dow futures, the Dow Jones Industrial Average, the old bellword, was 18,000 that night, 17.5. It went down that 18,000. It's 48,000 today. This is just 10 years later. That's a near triple up of an entire index. But that's not reflected in our economy. In fact, as the market's done this, the economy's actually eroded. Talking to a patient today, his kids, they want to live in a decent area, right? If you want to live in a decent area in America, 600,000 for a house in a decent neighborhood. That's what and he has a son, mid-20s, daughter-in-law, mid-20s. They've both got higher education, graduate degrees. They're having a really hard time buying a home. And these are winners. These are go-getters. These are ones that are saying, bring it on. I'm ready to achieve. Can't buy a home. That's a problem. The collective has to say, this isn't going to work. I don't know. I'm trying to find hope. I'm trying to find the good stuff. Where is it? It's not easy to find right now. Your thoughts?
Right. No, absolutely. I mean, and I haven't seen much of your views on immigration and ICE and that whole
Another
thing.
huge issue.
But to me, we're taking armies into inner cities that have been war zones for the last 30 years. We allowed open borders for the last 50 years, and now we're throwing the hammer down on families that have lived there their whole life in the guise of we're going after bad guys, but that's just not true. Everyone jumping on this bandwagon of, well, they should have come here legally, or they should have done their paperwork with an attorney, but then knowing a lot of people that have gone down that path, and it takes 10, 15, 20 years in a lot of cases, it's such a broken system that we should really be focusing on not demonizing these people that were invited in. And then now, over the last 5 years, all the woke stuff where those people were propped up, all the LGBTQ people that were propped up. I mean, in 2020, when COVID came out and, people like us were online and screaming and trying to tell people the truth. And back then, there were way less people engaged.
Yes. Exactly. That was the moment that everybody got involved. But prior to, no.
Right. And I don't know if we couldn't see each other because the social media companies were blocking us all from each other.
True.
But now I see this world where there's just, thousands of us speaking the truth.
Right.
But like you said, there's so much negativity and there's so many issues that are coming to a head. It feels like this giant bomb that you're just trying to say, we need hope here, hope here, hope here. And, Trump, we feel like, has left us. And so to me, my hope is collectively people are better than what they appear to be.
Yes.
And my concern is with the mass surveillance, with the Palantir, with the digital ID.
Yes.
It's now all these people, that never should have been propped up, if you give people free stuff for years, or if you make a person feel like there's something that are not for years, and then you just rip that carpet away from them, well, I think as far as conservatives that we're getting smashed through the Biden era and online, we don't go kill people or we don't go do crazy things because we can have conversations and be perfectly fine. And it's not like we want the world to blow up. But I believe that that's what a lot of these different people, they don't care. Their lives are ruined. They're transgender. They've made so many bad life decisions that they're not okay with themselves. They're perfectly fine killing themselves and killing other people. So I think we're going to see tons of violence. I think with the immigration stuff, there's going to be tons and tons of violence. I think with just going into the inner cities and trying to clean those up, there's going to be tons of violence. And so I say, what is the result of all that? Well, one, it's going to be a giant distraction and scare the hell out of your normal person to where they don't ask questions about the Epstein files or ask questions
Sure.
about mass surveillance or ask questions about the things that actually matter. And so now we're going to be building more jails, building more prisons, hiring more cops, hiring more ICE officers, just building this gigantic structure while everyone's in fear of all this violence. And then ultimately, all of that is going to be used against every single one of us.
Absolutely.
And my concern is, I believe this last time of me getting kidnapped, which the more I kind of process this, the more attorneys I talk to, the more people that go through my situation with me say, Shawn, your ex-wife made a false police report. You were kidnapped by federal agents.
That's true.
The governor was involved. I mean, and I've been screaming it and trying to tell the story to try to help me get it out, but nobody really cares. And so, I mean, I'm not saying you don't care. You care.
No, but if somebody with a position like, hey, this isn't right, let the kid go. That person has not cared yet.
Right. And so if you can, I guess my worry is voices like you, voices like me. It's already happening to me. Is anyone with common sense, anyone with a pair of balls, anybody that is just on these God-inspired missions of just wanting people to be happy and wanting the world. I grew up with an incredible father who, like I said, he was the mayor the last 4 years. Next week, November 4th, is we get the election results. And we've been in a war of hell with the left. They call themselves Stronger Together, which they've taken over almost all the local races in the state of Utah and completely destroyed the state. It's outside money, dark money coming in from the Democrats, but people are too stupid to see it. But I lived such a blessed life at 40 years old. I mean, when I was graduating high school, all my friends had all these things and ideas of, things they wanted to do with their life. And I'm like, I've traveled all over the world. I've done more at 20 years of age than, 99% of people have done in their lifetime.
Right.
And so when you live a good life, when you have a good father, when you have a good family, when you have a good spouse, when you have amazing kids and you get all this joy from all these simple things,
yes, sir,
basic things that we should be focused on, and you see all these other people having their lives destroyed by evil, and you can see why and you understand why, and you're trying to just scream at everybody and say, this is why this is happening, and everyone's just, you feel like they're blind.
Yes, sir.
So to me, people do not hate the government enough. People should not blindly trust anybody. We live in a culture where there's zero trust based on how these people have treated us the last 5 years, or really probably the last 50 years. I've just been ultra focused the last 7 years as this stuff started affecting me. But to me, it's what I tell my friends a lot of the time is God should have flooded this place years ago. We destroyed this country. We've destroyed this earth. And every day we wake up and have a chance to live and be around the people that we love and try to make the world better is a huge blessing.
Absolutely.
And being out of jail, if I'm not in jail or if I'm not dead, then I'm extremely grateful and just grateful to God.
You're describing the perfect Christian heart. You're describing the heart that God wants you to have, in which my pleasure comes from with what you're saying there. Like, we get through a busy day at work and school and we're home as a family. And guess what? There's peace in the home. There's joy in the home. There's, this feeling of we're good. We did this was good days done. And guess what? It doesn't involve ice cream. It doesn't involve a fancy movie. It doesn't involve any of that other stuff. It's just that feeling that you get when it's like, this is the stuff that matters. The fancy car does not. I've had BMWs. I've had brand new. I've had old. I don't have any of those right now. Just a regular car. It changes nothing in my life. But how much did I chase those things, right? And shame on me. And so what I'm saying to the person that says, can't you see it? Can't you see that they've tricked us into thinking we need all this stuff? And that's how we're so stressed out. We don't sleep. We're on SSRIs and everybody's overweight. They eat like crap. They don't work out. They do stay inside. Don't you see? It's because they tricked us into stuff, and it comes from the world, and we despise it and we reject it. But what we do, and so like I come from a lot of like working with other alcoholics, okay, and they don't really tell you this but most of what it is, like when you're working with another guy, the satisfaction of seeing him go from a hopeless, on his way out, drop dead drunk, and they transform. Guys like this, where wow, I'm doing something, I'm contributing, I was, but now because of God and this radical transformation. Do you know how much benefit and how much healing and how much just gratitude comes into your heart when you're able to help a fellow man because you had something he needed? And that's kind of what we're to be looking for is, okay, I need an opportunity to serve. I know my needs are being taken care of by the Most High, but where can I serve another person? I'm not so worried about what I'm going to get today, because that's how everybody is. My money, my space, my time, my. We're too busy, my. It's actually about, how did you help another person today? Did you even think of anybody else today? Did you pray for anybody else today? Did you yield to somebody else today? The culture that operates like that wins. It succeeds. The one that says me first, or, every dog for himself, which is where we're at today, that ain't going to work. Not when you sell it as a democracy, greatest country on earth. That just doesn't fly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I go back and forth because, 7 years ago, I'm in Alabama. And like you said, the mansion on the golf course, the fancy cars, the going down to Destin, Florida every 4 months, kind of the superstars in our Mormon mailing church in Alabama. And from the outside, it looked like I had it all. And so I was constantly serving so many other people and doing so much for others because I thought, I've got my wife at home, I've got my kids, they have everything that they need. We should be helping other people. And I never really understood that, because I was always a gambling addict also. And so through my gambling addiction years, my ex-wife was kind of the only one there for me as I isolated myself. And so as I got healthy and as I got more self-confidence and as I just got more successful, I went away from only depending on her or only giving her all my attention to where now I'm giving it to everybody else. And so when my life blew up in the divorce and my kids got taken away and I went through this just, moment of being crippled by the system, all these people that I was serving basically all disappeared.
Yes.
And so I think there's a fine line of, for me, I just look at, when I'm in jail for 8 months and Dulce, I call her my wife. We haven't been married. I don't believe in marriage with the government. I say, we're married through God. And so I call her my wife.
Yeah.
She's showing up every single week with us, in the beginning it was 6-week-old son, for that 8 months. I mean, that was in Nevada, the first 124 days. Once I got to Utah, they had tablets where I could do FaceTimes every morning with them. But throughout that time, I could call my dad every day. He's full-time business owner, full-time mayor, no time, but anytime I would call, he would take 30 minutes to an hour giving me his time. Different friends that would pick up my calls while I'm in jail. Just different people that have really been there for me throughout the last few years. I try to give all my time and energy to them. And then I feel like if I'm working out in the gym every day, if I'm eating healthy, if I'm cooking good meals and healthy food for these people that I love, if I'm taking care of all aspects of my health, mental, physical, spiritual, it's going to benefit the ones I love the most. And so I don't know if that answers your question, but I
Yeah,
think
but that's
that,
what you're talking about. Your own home has to be in order, which means you have to be in order, or you can't lead children, you can't lead a wife, and you certainly can't help others. And so that's how it works. Okay, do you have a relationship with the Most High? Okay, great. Now you could be potential marriage and father candidacy. Now you can have a home, and now you're blessing all those people in your circle because of your reformed heart. And now, because that reform is just it's overflowing, that's now where you're being called by the Holy Spirit to serve here. Okay, this is something I can pour into because I'm doing, and so it's never a neglect of home to go do this, or I'm compelled. The Holy Spirit tells us where we're to be called to serve. And some people we're just going to serve for one season. We're just going to be there for this one event. And never forget, God puts people in your life for a very specific reason, sometimes a long time, sometimes a short time, but they're there by no mistake. That's for sure. I want to talk because this is another one too that I just know is not, nobody wants to talk about the dirty little secret that's now come full-fledged onto America. That's all the gambling gambling on the phone. It's because every state has it now. It's like a huge craze online. I see all these people on Rain Bet. They're going to do five. I mean, they're doing crazy money online, and you are getting. I just went and saw this guy speak last week. He's a family doctor. He's an author. He's a psychiatrist, but he was just going into the outrageous amount of damage video games are doing to young boys, 8-year-old, 12-year-old, 16. I mean, they are frying their brains, right? And so I'm sort of thinking because young boys are they can kind of get hooked on that stuff easy. And then you're going to give them gambling at 18, at 21. They're going to be in college. They can do it on their phone. They've got credit cards. They've got moms. I mean, just are you as shocked as I am that just sort of just to me? Okay, so I placing my first bets about 99, 2000, brand new fake IDs, getting to casinos. There was nothing online. Back then, you had to wire Western Union money wire to some place in Costa Rica, and then they would put it into your website account thing, and it was a big pain in the ass. And so not everybody was doing it. And in fact, in Colorado, they opened up these little ridiculous casinos. It was such a ridiculous place. $5 limit maximum blackjack and all these games. And so these were the only places. Now, anybody, anywhere, anytime can do this. I mean, are you just as concerned? I know how this story ends for millions of men going to do this thing. What do you think of this?
yeah, I mean, my kind of, I guess I probably started gambling in 2004, so I kind of
Yeah.
can relate to some of those things. And my cousin actually, his stepbrother was the founder of Absolute Poker, and so I went over to Costa Rica in 2005, and there was a group of 7 of them, all college students, and basically, watched Absolute Poker completely explode, and they were
Wow.
treated like celebrities over there. And then there was a Black Friday, I think in 2011, where they shut all these offshore casinos down,
Yeah.
demonized them. At that time, my cousin was the CEO because there was a cheating scandal with Absolute Poker where his stepbrother had got pushed out. And so, of the 11 people that got indicted, it was mainly the CEOs of the different offshore companies. My cousin wanted to be able to come back to the States to see family. So, he was the first one to come back and kind of face the music. And he had the Unabomber's attorney, told him, come back to New York. You're not going to go to prison. Nothing's going to happen. Gave him $1 million and came back to New York for sentencing. Thought he was just going to get some type of probation,
Yeah.
and ended up, I think, going to prison for about 9 months. But they basically demonized these guys, got rid
Yes.
of them, and then they've opened it mass in America because, for political reasons.
I mean, I guess
Um,
just for money. I mean, I guess that's probably a good question to ask. Who thought of it and why? What was going to be the benefit to society to do it?
I mean,
No.
everything that doesn't make sense. I mean, why is porn as
Yeah.
prevalent
True.
as it is?
Same.
Why is that
Yeah. Fair.
everywhere? It
Fair.
everything that doesn't make sense, that destroys lives, that is horrible for all of us. It just money is way more important to politicians than people, and that's,
Yes.
I mean,
True.
that's how it is.
Reality.
So for me, as a gambling addict, as somebody that came from a family with means, came from a family of resources, that as I went through my addiction from 19 years old, really to 34 years old, when my life blew up, I pretty much stopped.
Yeah.
Um, but I was going to, there was when my family would look for help, there was this rehab in Louisiana called CORE, and it was basically a state funded thing. I think at that time it was like $6,000 when I went in 2006 or 2007, and basically flew in and got bussed into Shreveport, Louisiana, in the ghetto. And there's like, you have one counseling session a week, super low budget. They're just
Yeah.
extorting money from taxpayers, basically.
Right.
So that was the resource for a gambling addict, somebody that had all the resources in the world. That was the only place I could go to get help. And then there was
Right.
one in Baltimore, a guy named Michael Osborne, who was a big
Yeah.
sports betting guy.
Yeah.
He started the rehab. It lasted 2 or 3 years before it got shut down because they found out he was taking the money and just gambling it. And so my point of talking about that is, well, I guess I did do Williamsville Wellness in 2022 or 2021 because the court said, you have a gambling problem, you need to fix this if you want any rights to your kids. But because of COVID, I couldn't go in person, but it was just an online program. They're
Wow.
actually an awesome program,
Yeah.
Williamsville Wellness. But that's the only good one. And so when I look at addiction as far as drugs, as far as alcohol, with insurance, insurance works with the drug and alcohol ones. Gambling, you're pretty much on your own and have to pay out of pocket. So if you don't come from a family that can afford paying 15 or 20,000 a month for you to go
Right.
get help, which I don't believe, I really don't believe in rehabs. I don't believe in
Yeah,
counseling. I
right.
think that's all a bunch of crap. But with gamblers, I think they say the suicide rate is like, I don't know, is it
It's
4 or 5 times? It's high. Um, but I think it's just because people get in these binds and they don't see a way out.
Yeah, exactly.
Whereas if you choose alcohol, if you choose drugs, you have a
I'll catch
relapse.
an AA meeting,
Yeah, you don't, you're not going to lose your house. You're not going to not
Right.
be able to make a rent payment.
Right.
You're not going to lose your car. You're not going to lose your job. Whereas gambling is just,
It could be
it's so
overnight.
destructive, you
It
know?
could be overnight. You could go literally from I'm a rich guy to a poor guy in a weekend. And that's crazy to where, yeah, I guess you could go on a bender. But as long as you're not drinking and driving, you'd probably be able to get up and do it again the next weekend. And then, the crazy thing about it is, you know, you put it down, walk away. It doesn't have like the same, obviously, physical, elements of alcohol, but it's just the same as all these things that are saying, hey, there's a game tonight. Hey, they're going to the casino. It's chirping just like, hey, it's happy hour, blah, blah, blah. You remember this? And so it's chirping, but to inject that into society, and they had to know, it wasn't 40-year-old women that were going to take advantage of that. It was going to be young men. It was going to be, collecting on all these just other habits that we can do. So you're perfectly right on the pornography thing. That is just as despicable to be at our disposal. And, I hate to bring this up again, but the founder of Pornhub is a Jewish rabbi. And so we have to, again, look at some fruit. Why would you want that in a culture? Why would you want to do that to, a young man? And you're perverting the man's. Now he's trying to get married. He wants to find a girl, but you're showing him all this stuff. I mean, so it's just a confusing, reckless, chaotic thing. You've introduced gambling on the phone, on the campuses, on TV, at a time in which it's already hard to survive. Um, we talked about what's coming up this weekend with the SNAP benefits, and we're going to lose those. And so you're right. So do we, it has to result in violence. Typically people, it's like the cornered animal. It's so threatened. It has no result. And so my vision is like the normal white college kid who's blown it all is now going to have to become a criminal to sustain himself, or the guy who's maybe doesn't love his job. And I see these terrible ones on Instagram where the guy's working at Jersey Mike's Subs, and he's taking every day, he's taking his paycheck and putting it on a hand of blackjack, and like that's his thing. And so he's like, oh, I work 10 hours for free again. And it's like that is a depressing, demoralizing state of existence. And at some point, that's going to break somebody, and they're not going to be laughing about it. They're not going to be cute about it. They're going to be breaking into houses about it, stealing cars about it, robbing me about it. But this is going to be a significantly negative societal impact. You got to go forward about 10 years though, probably, right? Before
Yeah, I
their
mean,
lives are ruined. They just ruined these. I mean, at 30 years old, your life is completely ruined by like government forced gambling.
absolutely. I mean, in the thick of my addiction, I mean, for us, like you said, it was so difficult to go gamble, or
Yeah.
when I was in Alabama, I think it was a 5 hour drive. And so
Right.
I could be in the middle of doing something and I would just take off on a whim because I
Right.
was a very impulsive person. And so a
Right.
lot of times people thought I was a meth addict or that I was on meth based on what how I was living my life during the addiction years. And
Yeah.
so to think though, like you said, even getting people to send me money, because I would have people, hitting up all my friends of, send me
Yep.
5 grand, I'll give you 6 grand next week, and send it to like 20 people. And so,
Right.
but you used to have to go to a Western Union or a
Yeah.
Walmart or a this or that. But now all these money apps, you get instant money.
Yeah.
And so where everything is so easy and right at your fingertips,
Oh, and
it's
check
not
this
gonna,
out even more impulsively, all the live action. Other thing back then, if you liked a game and it started, you had to wait till halftime to get in, or there was no action to get in, right? And there was
yeah,
no, live betting or surrender. I mean, it's just crazy. They have made it like, and again, and we're taking the bait. The gambler guy is going to take the bait. It's like this is like the worst case scenario for the gambler. It's I can get the money to you, and even on credit, I can get it, the action in within seconds. And you notice too, what's also gone along with this rise is there's sports on 24/7. Every app, every channel, everything is on TV. Back when I was good, I mean, yeah, ESPN had the big games. There was no Thursday night stuff, but you had like, a tenth of the amount of action. So they've taken the action all the way up to the tippy top of action to where, now I see, guys are, German pretzel cutting contests at 2 a.m,
right.
and which, crazy stuff. But if you're in that mode, do you care? Do you care if you're drinking a Coors Light or a Miller Light? If you're 30 beers deep, do you really care? No, you don't. You're looking for action.
Right. No, 100%. No, it's not going to end well. And no, yeah, like you
So
said,
it's
they're
just for
just,
money. So think about it. Like we have these things in our society, and that's just like, again, this is just like wake up to the truth, folks. Like you can love your government, but just know what they're doing. Like alcohol. Think about how awful alcohol is for society. I don't want to hear about, oh, well, I have a glass of red wine once a month for the antioxidant. I don't want to hear about that. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about 7 days a week, 24/7 liquor sales, and then the consequences of alcoholism in culture. If you were to just say perfect world, no alcohol in society, would society be better or worse? It's better. It's just better. There's no way you could say it. Productivity is better. People are happier. Violence is down. You don't have drunk driving cases. I mean, so you have to look at it like this kind of stuff. But our government will never do that. I guess they tried that prohibition and it created a black market. But for the betterment of our people, we just can't let you have access to certain things. I'm sorry. And I think that makes sense. And they say, oh, well, then you do like government. Well, no, 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 no. It's not like that. What I don't want to do is I don't want government artificially putting in the lap of people things that are known to hurt them. Um,
yeah,
so we have to put that in. And so we're no government. You didn't ask. I mean, to think about as a citizen, you'd have to just be a gambling addict to want to vote that in, to your laws and your states. And the money that they promise in taxes, that never comes back to you. They always talk about, oh, the schools, when they did marijuana here, oh, that money has never made its way to the schools yet. And it's been going on for 12 years, the
yeah,
legal and the med. So all this stuff that they say, oh, the taxes will be amazing. But it's not, it's a lie too. It just serves a small group and then puts you more further and further away from freedom, which I can tell you right now, if you're in the combination of alcohol and gambling addictions, you're the furthest from free that it comes. You are bound and getting ready to start on fire type of bondage. So that is true. That is good. I just think it's terrible. We don't really watch sports in the home. Now that we know, I mean, think about what the NFL did. We have homosexual cheerleaders in Minnesota. We have LGBTQ, and this is football, man. This was the toughest of the tough. What on earth are you doing thinking that some trans person is going to suddenly start watching football because they see this gay cheerleader? But what you are doing is pissing off all the people that were your customers that had no problem with you up until you went woke AF, and that's Roger Goodell, a Jewish cuck that just basically says, okay, 60% of professional sports are owned by Jewish billionaires. I think that always has to be known. And then you see the messaging. Black Lives Matter, smothering the end zones. LGBTQ, the rainbow, smothering the crowds, smothering the stadiums. I mean, we just can't stutter. So the whole point is this, folks, wake up, because your government is co-signing, supporting, funding, all of this, your own demise. Do you still respect it? So like, I wish President Trump would address those kind of domestic issues. He plays that game right now with the vaccines and the autism, and he says the Tylenol. I mean, they're just not doing a good job on delivering us. They're known liars. We have a government shutdown. We have SNAP EBT benefits ending tomorrow in most places. And this is by design. I think we can go right back to May of 2020. This is George Floyd. This is George Floyd Palooza. This is what led to the golden casket being paraded around the country, and everybody's worshiping him, and it caused chaos. I truly believe, not that I'm hoping for it, but it's the result of bad policy and bad people, that you're going to have sort of this new uprising coming up, and it'll be justified. And we get into, this cultural issue. I guess kind of just talk about this here. With so many things kind of flying at us, we need to be on the lookout, because see, we have things going right now. Ukraine, okay, that's still on a hostile environment. We have the Israel thing. The ceasefire is already gone. We talked a little bit about immigration. They are no longer deporting. I mean, the deportation numbers. I mean, I think they're doing a lot of show. A lot of show with ICE, a lot of show with the deportations are not happening. They stopped reporting the numbers. And I think that's another betrayal, because unfortunately, yes, they have to go. All of them in theory, but not all of them must stay gone. Right. So what we have to do, I think it's too hard to pick and choose. Right. But I think we do need to always have, we have to be able to check the fruit of those that have lived here, even though illegally. We do need to see some fruit, because if you have produced any rotten fruit, you're not eligible to return. That we need to understand that right now. You did a bad thing, you must go right now. I don't care, but you did bad fruit, so you got to go. These are criminal things. These are societal nuances that we just can't tolerate for an illegal citizen. But then you describe the person, and I think we all kind of know the person that is perhaps here illegally, they don't want any trouble. They're not looking for trouble. They're just looking to work. They want to go along with it. That person must be categorized as we can get you back in. We can get you right in and going, and we can get you in the right way. And the reason I even say that is, let's say they've been here for 20 years. I know they've paid a fortune in sales tax and W-2 stuff. I know they have, even though you did a bad thing. So if you have no blight on your record, and you can prove that, we can substantiate that, then yes, you're going to be uprooted, but you're going to get the place to come right back through the right way. Now, what does that really get us down to? Let's say there's 50 million illegal people here right now, which that's probably fair. I mean, it's a scary number. It's a big number. 330 million, 50 being illegal. Breathtaking, actually, when you think about it. Let's say only 5 or 10 of them are eligible to come back. That's okay. That's okay, because technically they're all did the wrong thing. And I know there's a reason. I mean, I can justify every single thing I do in my day. I mean, there's truth. I get cut off in traffic and I say, yeah, you son of a, I can justify it. Don't mean I'm right. You know what I mean? It's so easy to do. Well, the country I was fleeing. And so, but we have to have law and order, and we have to stick to it. And law and order can be done still compassionately, but by the rules. A great father, he's law and order. He doesn't know it, but he's law and order, because if he's loosey goose and he picks and chooses, okay, here's my red lines, don't cross them, and that kid keeps crossing, and that dad keeps scooting the red line back, that's a bad dad. That dad's going to have a bad kid. That kid won't know what time it is when society comes rushing upon us. You talk about gambling early, growing up wealthy, growing up affluent, growing up with means. That was the same. I mean, I had a very protected childhood, nice cars, lived on a golf course, never drank, did good boy. What happened when I got out to the world? Oh my gosh, I went crazy. And that's where you get a maniac addict. So we have a duty to keep that society, because the kids are going to go out into it. But we can't just say, okay, you have this great upbringing, and then you release them to Babylon. Can't have it. Won't work. So it really does come down to law and order, but not to be a jerk about it, because this is the only way we survive. I think about it like our business. We have to have some law and order. It doesn't survive if we just sort of say, this year we're doing this, and next year we're doing this, and a couple of years ago you don't survive doing that. But we have some laws that you must abide by, and we'd love to have you. We really would, and we heard some really good things about you. But unfortunately, because of the way you entered, and I'm thinking, like, if I tried to go to a country club today, what they would do to me without membership, right? They would not let me stay until the board decided on it next week. So we're just getting back to loving enforcement of our very fair rules and regulations in this country. And those at their core are very pro people. Yes.
The problem is, though, is if we're giving billions of dollars to a cause that the government is in charge of,
Yes.
and we cannot trust these people based on history. I mean, all those ideas sound great, but based on the laws in this country, I'm a hardened criminal and I've done,
Yes.
lots of time. And so it's almost like there's a guy named Mike Glover that's been wrecked by the system. He's got a pretty big platform in Utah and different podcasts and different things that he does on his own, which he's awesome to listen to and probably going to be one of the leaders in the state, I think. But on his show the other day, he was saying the average person commits 2 felonies every single day based on the laws. And so I haven't looked at in the United States, but when I Google how much or information on Utah law, it says there's over 10 million words in Utah code and over 10,000 crimes. And if you start breaking them down and say, okay, what of these laws, which ones are constitutional?
Right.
And then in my case, the laws that have affected me are completely unconstitutional, but nobody cares. And so you have a governor kidnapping people, throwing people in jail for absolutely no reason because of my speech.
Right.
And then you have cops or federal agents that act on orders from a corrupt governor. And then you have judges that you go in front of and they treat me like I murdered somebody when I sent an email. Right. And so when you really understand, or even, I mean, the Tyler Robinson and the Charlie Kirk puppet show that's going on, the whole world is watching, and they put a judge with less than 2 months of experience. They put Cox in charge of all those different, I mean, right after the assassination, he was on TV every single day.
He was the play-by-play guy for the whole thing.
He was running a political campaign with Charlie Kirk's death. And then Mike Smith, his brother-in-law, is the Utah County Sheriff that was standing by him in those press conferences. Nobody respects Sheriff Mike Smith. They know he's just a political puppet. The number 2 guy is the one that really runs, all the law enforcement in Utah County. And then Jeff Gray is a newer district attorney. Well, probably, I don't know, 3 or 4 years. But he's horrible. Nobody respects him. And then, that first hearing, if you watched it, you have the judge basically saying, we really care about the Constitution and we want to make sure Mr. Robinson gets his rights, and I want everyone to act with integrity and all these different things that doesn't
massive
happen.
Gag order. Okay, he's got a 3,000 person gag order essentially. Mm-hmm. He's going to do the plain clothes. They're still debating the TV. I mean, but this is the one. So here we go. Start with 9/11. Okay. We bought the lie, hook, line, and sinker that a guy in a cave in Afghanistan blew up 3 buildings in New York City with 2 planes, and they all fell free fall demolition style organically. Okay. We believed that. And what did we do? We said, we'll do the Patriot bill, and then let's go and we'll get them. We'll smoke them out of those caves. We said all that, right? And we didn't ask any of the questions. That's too long ago to deal with now. This will be like JFK, where you get the 9/11 files at 2076. And it's like, wow, that was a bummer for them, but it was 2 generations ago. So nobody will care. Charlie Kirk is different. We have our own cameras. We have our own film. We have our own team on it. And we're not going to stop getting on. This is a great government lie happening live before our very eyes. And I would say of the country that is privy to it, wise to it, it's less than 20%. 80% of the country is going with the gay lone shooter, with the breadcrumb trail laid out that says, this is why I did it here at this time, and here's my DNA, here's my fingerprints, the gun's my grandfather's, and I loved him so much. All those stuff. I mean, we don't believe that. This is the problem. we've become under trance. And so we're taking, and like, I'm just blown away. I see this Spencer Cox, this demon looking guy. How does it gives me the chills, the guy. I don't have to listen to him for more than 30 seconds to be like, that's a demon. Why do people not see that? They're so blind spiritually. They don't want to be tapped in. It's so dead. How can you not see these people? And they are telling you, I'm against you, and there's nothing you can do about it because you're under my trance. It's disturbing and it's scary. But I just think with Charlie Kirk, because again, and I want to, his wife too. I mean, not only I'm concerned about his wife. I'm concerned about the fact that she was 6 years older, that she was in the beauty contests. I'm concerned with her appearances in the post. And I don't want to hear, oh, you have no right to judge and blah, blah. I understand that. But again, I'm letting my spirit, let my eyes do some discerning here. And it doesn't feel good. And it doesn't sound, and I do want people, she was just with JD Vance the other day, and JD Vance, I think we still talk about a little bit too, just on this, and people are in confusion. But it doesn't feel right. I want to see a couple of things. People are under this spell that JD Vance is somehow, like our next one. But she said some stuff and it just really bothered me. Share the sound here. Let's just hear her the other night. Let's see. No, this is now again, we're going to talk about this. He's wearing Hindu garb there. I don't know. I mean, for me, here we go. Let's see. Hold on a second here. Why am I not getting this audio? Okay.
No one will ever replace my husband.
This is odd.
No. But I do see some similarities of my husband in JD and Vice President JD Vance. I do. And that's why I'm so blessed to be able to introduce him tonight, because he understands
too much smiling for me,
the fight that we're up against.
This is
and he
terrible.
can articulate that.
This didn't look good. And
in a way,
he did the photo op with the body, and
that transcends. He's an amazing man. No one will ever replace my husband.
So she's into it. Now, here is interesting about JD Vance. So she's like, slobbering all over him. And then he's speaking with the students about his wife's Hindu background. Let's hear this one.
Everybody has to come to their own arrangement.
Yeah, let's look at it. Let's just see what he's saying
here. The way that we've come to our arrangement is she's my best friend. We talk to each other about this stuff. So
he's Hindu.
We decided to raise our kids Christian. Our two oldest kids who go to school, they go to a Christian school. Our 8-year-old did his first communion about a year ago. That's the way that we have come to our arrangement. But
now, of course, Catholicism is idolatry, but we'll talk about that.
My 8-year-old was also very proud of his first communion. Thank you, guys. I'll tell him that Ole Miss wishes him the best. But I think everybody has to have this own conversation when you're in a marriage. I mean, it's true for friends of mine who are in Protestant and Catholic marriages, friends of mine who are in, atheist and Christian marriages. You just got to talk to the only advice I can give is you just got to talk to the person that God has put you with, and you've got to make those decisions as a family unit. For us, it works out. Now, most Sundays, Usha will come with me to church. As I've told her and I've said publicly, and I'll say now in front of 10,000 of my closest friends, do I hope eventually that she is somehow moved by the same thing that I was moved in by church? Yeah, I honestly do wish that, because I believe in the Christian gospel, and I hope eventually my wife comes to see it the same way. But if she doesn't, then God says everybody has free will, and so that doesn't cause a problem for me. That's something you work out with your
John
friends, with your family, with the
now
person that you.
Now let's discuss this. Now this is concerning. We'll get out here. Now John 14:6 is very, very clear. It says, "I am the way, the truth, the life. There is no other way to the Father except through me." And that speaks to Jew, that speaks to Hindu, that speaks to everybody who denies Jesus Christ. That's just the way the Bible says it. The Bible says it. It's not me. It states it. So to me, that is just the most bizarre thing. I think just to break that down. So I don't know when he came to faith. Okay. But if I'm a practicing Christian and I'm living in the same home with my Hindu wife, who's also practicing, that's like a major conflict. And so his thinking of that, his hope that she comes to church and that moves her, but that God gave everybody free will. Yes, that's true. But he did say, John 14:6, you must come through Christ the Son to have a relationship. So basically, what is his wife is going to hell, and he's just hoping that. So I don't know if they're going to try to replace his Indian wife with like Erica Kirk. I don't know. I just throw that out there in the sense of it's a really bad look to sell this America First MAGA with a brown wife, a Hindu wife. I mean, it's not racist, it's reality. We're not supposed to be all mixed together like this. You know, it doesn't work where you have 1 out of 5 is a Hindu, a Buddhist, a Christian, a Jewish, an atheist. And we have Christian rules and Constitution founding on. And if you like to participate in a Christian way of life, this is the country. But if you don't, we're not interested in you. I'm sorry. That to me is probably offensive, but the way it has to be. So that's a major problem for JD in the future. Divorce would not look good for him. A Hindu as the first lady would not look good for him. A pretty white wife with blonde hair would look much better for him. I think if he was to, he's a fake politician. So everybody understand with JD Vance, and I don't know if they've seen a lot on Nick Fuentes' stuff. He did really good reporting on him. JD Vance is a fake name. Of course, he went to the Ivy League. His military background, although we honor his service, was that of an intel reporter. He was a reporter. Okay, he was not in the field ever. And I'm not suggesting that he pretended to be, like a war hero, but certainly this military background is in here, and they've shown him shooting a gun and stuff like that. But he's handpicked by Peter Thiel. That's the problem with JD Vance, is that he's in lockstep. And so essentially with JD Vance is that he have this good old boy, poor as dirt growing up, hillbilly this and hillbilly that. And it turns out he's really quite privileged. And so Peter Thiel put him in this position, was the largest donor to his Ohio Senate campaign. And then in just 2 years, he's the vice president of the United States. So people also don't appreciate JD Vance was a huge never Trumper, anti-Trumper. And we're supposed to pretend that just all went away and he's been forgiven and he never really went back and said it, but he was handpicked for this. And so the whole thing stinks, but they know that they're trying to put Vance out there as this sort of White House face, sort of replacement for Charlie, kind of this older brother kind of covering over TPUSA. And I just don't buy it. I'm not buying it because they're trying to sell the same lie that the gay kid on the roof did it, got the Dairy Queen, and then turned himself in. I mean, it's a joke, right? I mean, so this is something that we just have to stand firm on. No, we're not buying it. It's just so crazy because they're going to proceed with a trial. I don't think anybody would. I think they don't kill him because I don't think anybody would believe it. I mean, if he was found hung to death, would anybody believe that Tyler Robinson killed himself at this point?
I think they're going to kill him.
They have to, kind of, because they can't give him a trial and lose the case. I mean, just the bullet trajectories alone, right? So we believe, Matthew Dark Show and any of the people that want to listen, we believe that device was inside of his pen, his mic, his lapel mic, and that this is the exit wound, not the entrance wound. And that's why you get the shirt puffing up, the necklace breaking, the blood and the exit. It's all from right there. Now, and there was no autopsy. There was no coroner's report. This was signed off by the doctor at the hospital. What they tell us about that is that it was the 30-06, that this is the entrance wound, but it was the back vertebrae that stopped the bullet. It's not possible. It's not possible. Mm-hmm. And then you have all the weird behavior by his team in the immediate aftermath. It's very breathtaking. So no, we can't tolerate this lie. And because they're really pushing, I mean, think about it. Like now, we haven't even dealt with the Epstein files as they're getting ready to shove Charlie Kirk case under the rug and move on to now we're going to go after Venezuela and all this stuff. I mean, we have to slow down and address these issues. A, we have to have the Epstein files. B, we have to have full investigation on Charlie Kirk murder case. We don't believe any of it. Your thoughts?
Just to go back, just to cover a couple of things that were on my mind.
Yes.
That video you played with Erica Kirk is horrible, I think.
It really bothers me.
Yeah, that was disgusting. Yeah. As far as JD Vance and having a brown wife, Dulce, as I think is Mexican.
I'm talking about what they want to sell to America. They want to replace that brown wife. And that's why he's up there for the first time. I mean, to me, to kind of throw your wife under the bus like that. You know what I mean?
No,
because
sure.
What he should have said is this. And I totally see what you're saying. This is what he should have said, because he should be proud of her heritage, proud of her ethnicity, and say this, but because I believe in Jesus Christ, and that is the only way to salvation, no, my wife will accept the Christian faith at some point. So no. I think that's the one area where he messed up in his like perfectly sculpted political career.
Yeah.
I think love whoever you want, and Dolce's beautiful. This was his mistake, because he now is showing me a side that he's not shown before. He's never tossed her Hindu ethnicity sort of aside, like it was they were just vacationing in India last holiday season. So I'm saying that there's one little hiccup in the step. But go ahead, continue.
Yeah, and so but then also for me, like, in jail you do a lot of reading and read a lot in the Bible, because that's pretty much the most available book to you. Even in Utah, they have the Book of Mormon, and and so whatever religion or whatever book. Oh man, I need to plug this in. We're about dead.
Well, take the last words. Finish it here. Go ahead.
Just to me, there's so many. The Muslim. What's their book that I had in?
Oh, the Quran.
The Quran. So I'm reading from all these different books, and they all do have good information and give you good ideas and put you on a good mindset and good path. But in my mind, I believe these books are all man-made, written, and then used to kind of manipulate the masses into joining religions.
Yes.
And so, when people throw out different things with the Bible or the Book of Mormon or whatever it may be, I just go back to, have a relationship with God through prayer. Focus on your family, make your family as healthy and strong as possible. I want freedom for all kinds of people. And to me, having equal freedom for all people is having the smallest government possible and having the power of the people. And so that's why when people say, what religion are you? What this, what that? My religion is really prayer. And so anyway, those were just kind of a couple of thoughts that I had.
Well, I think it's well said. And I think all we're trying to talk about is people being more spiritual. That's a good thing for your life. Always do that. And if you're exploring fake religions, that's okay. That's better than nothing, because at least you're not higher. You'll eventually get led to the truth. Eventually, these other religions will break down before your very eyes. They'll betray you. They won't satisfy you. You'll feel empty, and you'll say, okay, there must be more. And that's all. People pursuing something greater than themselves, a calling higher than themselves. That's what we want people looking at. And we get rid of the plastic fake that's just become America. So this is good. This has covered a lot. There's a lot of action in this show. Not in any particular order, though.
Right. We're kind of all over the place.
We don't mind that. If the Spirit says go here, go there. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But go ahead. Whatever else you're thinking.
Oh, no, it's so difficult for me with religion, as far as, when I grew up in the Mormon church and I just saw how much better it was as far as the people in it, the principles they were teaching, the way people lived, to where it is now. And so it's difficult for me to push anyone to religion, just because I feel like as a young person, if you're showing up in churches and you're seeing the stuff that is going on there now, you're seeing the leadership and how they live their lives. And those are the people you're supposed to look up to and supposed to believe in. But then if you abandon religion and it's left with all kind of the scum of society, which I think is kind of where we're at now in a lot of ways. So I don't know. I'm constantly saying, is this a ship that should be abandoned? It really needs to just all crumble and start over, because it's so bad. Where do we go from here? But anyway,
it's fair. We are going to reach a point to where I think people find that spiritual moment, because they're so broken. The world is so bad. It's not working. And, bottoms are good. Bottoms are good. A lot of times I look at my recovery as a V bottom. It's not returned. And that's, praise God. That's thanks to God. That's only because of God. But I don't worry about that stuff anymore, because I have a good foundation. And everybody has to get to that place. And so it's not just go to this church and join this religion and all your problems go away. Doesn't work like that. It's an inside job. Does your heart connect in the spirit? And now do you live that way? Do you live it out? Because what you just described is probably the worst thing going on in the church. Is here we have this beautiful building and all these people gathered, but our actions don't reflect the heart of Christ. And so now you've turned people on. And what is the most common excuse why I don't go to church? Oh, I'm not going to go with a bunch of hypocrites, or they're all blah, blah, or judgmental, or whatever the excuses. Don't give them any excuses. Just watch me. Just prove it. Just watch my action. And you'll see that that's different. That's somebody with a heart for God. That's somebody with a heart for others. That's somebody who really doesn't care a lot about himself. Well, how are you doing? That's who I want to be. That's who I'm trying to be. And then that's just blessed, because that's what God's looking for too. So that doesn't have to be done at a church. You do that in society when you go to the grocery store. Although don't go to the grocery store tomorrow. It could be messy. The EBTs are out and they're not being reloaded. And so maybe you're ordering online, you're doing something else. Okay, now tell us, where's the best places to catch you, connect with you, stay into your situations?
Instagram's the best way. Utah Corruption.
Yep.
I do want to say just the last thing, as far as, because we did have a lot of, or we went over a ton of things and had some really good conversations. Is just people like you and I are basically have these giant targets on our back. And I believe with the mass surveillance, with Palantir, they're able to take everything we do online, put it in a profile, and makes the target on our backs even bigger.
Good. Please, I'm here. Come get some. Right.
Right. And so, but that's the world that I went to Africa for my graduation trip because there's 5 kids in my family and my mom hates to travel. So my dad said, when you graduate high school, I'll take you anywhere you want in the world. I chose to go leopard hunting in Zimbabwe and then on a safari in Botswana.
Did you get one?
Yeah, it's actually
it's him. Oh,
that top one.
Dang.
And it was my dad. We only had one tag. And he's, throughout my life of big game hunting, I was kind of the sidekick guy.
Yeah.
Nice. Even though I don't mind killing things, but he was just so into it.
Yeah,
or killing animals, I guess I should clarify. Going over there, Zimbabwe was settled by 250,000, I think, British settlers, white people. Yeah. They went in, they took the country, they did all the farming, they basically turned a shit show into a decent place to live.
Right.
Well, Mugabe, the president, I believe it was in the 90s, basically said whoever is white doesn't own their land anymore.
Right.
And it ran all the people out to where there was like 25,000 people left when we went in 2003. But all of the kind of pillars in society and strong men and people that stood up and fought for their rights and fought against the government, they were all in jail. And so when we were over there and talking to people, that was basically the path. Yeah. And that's a very strong reality if we're not able to awaken the masses. And so, I appreciate you, and I appreciate you just having real conversations, speaking truth, putting the facts out there, not really caring about the consequences, not really doing it for any other reason except for it's the right thing to do. And just be safe, take care of yourself, eat healthy, take care of your family, and keep doing what you're doing, because I think that the more we stand up, the more we do what we're doing, the more it inspires others to do the same. And this is not going to be a government, some politician is going to save us like a lot of us thought Trump was going to. Now we can see that this is up to the people, and we've got to make it happen. So,
folks, you will not vote your way out of this problem that's been created by government. Unfortunately, they're not listening, and you can't even say your vote counts. What it is right now, what counts is your action inside of your heart. Are you sick to death of what they've taken from you? I saw this. This will end on this. This is a great one to leave. So if you went back, this was amazing. I just saw this statistic. If you went back to 1965, and what the minimum wage to have a house and a family, meaning the minimum hourly wage in 1965, $18, an hour. That same standard of living today would require $66 an hour to support that same lifestyle. And that's just flash forward, 50 years. That's breathtaking, folks. They did that to us. They stole from us. Whether you have blue hair and like the LGBTQ, or you're a redneck and like the NRA, I don't know, but I know that's a crime what they did to America, and it just stops when we say we've had enough. And I say today's the day. The moment is here upon us. President Trump, you're of course better than Kamala Harris. You're of course better than Joe Biden and Barack Obama, but it just doesn't get it where we need to be. This one has to go the next level, which means it's affordable in America. It's safe in America. American can be trusted, and government earns its obedience back from us. We can't obey a government that would mutilate children, blow up children, put poisonous shots in our children. I can't, I'm sorry. I have no respect for leaders like that. I just simply won't anymore. So speak out, be disobedient with your pocketbook. That's our greatest tactic. Don't spend, take money out of that and put it into the kingdom. So find worthy causes. If you're going to Starbucks twice a week and you're spending $10, $40 a month now, I'd say cut that down to 20, take $20 and find a charity that speaks to your heart. I'm thinking of one that's, they raise money for single moms, house repairs. They need a handyman. Okay. This nonprofit fundraises and they'll send over the handyman, fix that mom's screen door. I think that money's better spent there than at Starbucks. That's my opinion. And so when we start making decisions like that with our money, I don't know that we need Disney and Amazon and Netflix. Let's get rid of at least two of them. What do you think, honey? They feel it. And you do it by the millions, they feel it. So God bless you, brother. We'll do it again. You stay safe. You stay good. You stay bold. You stay what you're doing. Of course, you're going to have, you'll have a massive case one day, and you'll be sitting there with a testimony unlike any other, because this trial, see, now that, you know how they said they couldn't take anything away from you. Not only can they not take anything, they haven't been able to break your spirit. Your spirit's been resolved. Your spirit's higher than it was before they tried their assault on you. That's like poison to them. That's kryptonite to them. They cannot handle that. You're not breaking. Okay. So then they either have to give up or kill you. Okay. And that's kind of where it comes to. And we're going to say they're going to walk away on this one. So we're going to be Godspeed with you. We're going to be following up, of course, Utah corruption on the Instagram. And God bless you, brother. Yes. Last one. Go ahead.
Just one last thing. So the judge that was assigned to my case in December, which he's the third one that I've had, all three that were involved since the beginning of all this, Cox appointed judges, but he just got nominated by Cox to the state Supreme Court. And so he's a first-year judge, BYU graduate, Mormon-owned BYU school, young guy, zero experience, completely trampling on my rights, doesn't believe in freedom of speech. And that was Cox's number one pick.
See, that's the problem. These people's bad conduct gets promoted up into greater levels. That's the problem. And that's our fault for saying, oh, he's a Republican, I'll vote for him. No, you won't vote for him. No, right. You don't vote at all for somebody like that. So that's good. That's a good fact to know. And that's just another example of how broken and disgusting, and it must stop. And it stopped with us saying, that's okay. We're out of here. You people have lost it, and you've lost our allegiance. So folks, do this until next time. Serve God, help others, stay good. Goodbye. God bless everybody.
The Matthew Dark Show, your one-stop show for truth, courage, fellowship, and faith. Available everywhere you get your podcasts.